everyone, it's Hailey. Happy Bookmas Day 10. Today I'm going to be reacting to negative reviews of my top 5 favorite books that I read in 2022. Time that I did this video was last Bookmas, but I kind of seem to remember doing one that like wasn't Bookmas focused. I can't exactly remember if that's true though, or if it's just like a fever dream that I made up. But if you haven't seen my video for Bookmas Day 4, I'll have it linked down below for you guys, but that's the video in which I like count down my top 15 favorite books that I read this year. And today I'm going to be looking at some reviews that like hated the books that were my top 5. So basically 1 to 2 star reviews. I tried for mostly 1 star, but some of the books, like a couple of them, didn't even actually really have any 1 star reviews. So I had to go to the 2 stars, which means it really was a good book. I always think it's really interesting to look at other people's opinions because I know a lot of the books that I've loved, people hate. And I don't know, I just think it's fun to like see a different perspective on things. So that is precisely what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be looking at like what other people thought of these 5 books right here. I'm not going to do it in like any particular order, but we have The Handmaid's Tale, specifically the graphic novel. I'll be looking at negative reviews for that one. The Lost Ticket by Freya Sampson. One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, and Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. So all 5 of these books are about to get utterly destroyed, and so are my reading tastes and opinions, but it's fine. I'm not sensitive. No, I know it's not a personal attack. It's just fun to look at someone else's opinion. I will say, upon like looking at these reviews, I apparently have some quite controversial favorites. Like definitely books that people seem to either love or hate. So let's start with the top of the pile, which is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. We're gonna look at what people thought about this, who did not like it. So I'm not gonna have like anyone's names on here, obviously, because I don't want anyone to get like blasted or whatever. Not that people would do that, but just in case. I will say one of the like main critiques that I saw for this one is something that I think is very valid, that it is quite a white feminist story. It is lacking in some diversity, which I think is something that can definitely be improved upon. So I'm not going to read like every word of these, but this one is a 1 out of 5 star review, and it says, I could have saved time and read a laundry list of cliches instead of reading this book. I can see where that criticism is coming from. They said that overall the story is extremely ridiculous and unrealistic. For example, one of the things that they comment on is the rowing. Like Elizabeth takes up rowing in this book, but she kind of is like almost immediately an expert and really good at it. But the description of that is like because she sees the physics, she sees like the scientific side of it. So I can understand how that would be like irritating and off-putting though, because it is something you work toward and she's just like automatically great at it. They're also commenting on how she makes feminist monologues that seem to be like from 2022. And I don't know if I think that like the monologues, I didn't really find that there were that many monologues. I found it was just the way that the story was going. So for me, that wasn't really an issue. They do also talk about her being a scientist and being like a cyborg. So ergo, she only thinks in logic, and she's actually a cyborg without feelings and without any idea of how human interactions work. We know this based on how cringy every single interaction she has is. Like, fair. She does definitely at times read like kind of a Sheldon Cooper character. She interacts with people in a very strange and kind of off-putting at times way, so I definitely can see how that would be irritating. The next review was actually a DNF, and this is a comment that I saw quite a bit, and I don't think that this is the book's fault. I think that this is something with the marketing of the book, and I didn't even know that it was marketed as such, but the book is described, I guess in many places, as laugh out loud funny in the feel-good book of the year. And there are a lot of criticisms of that because it's not really a feel-good story. It can be inspirational, but there's work to get there. There were definitely like issues and hard times that you're reading about. Like this person says there's a brutal rape that takes place in the first few chapters. And I'll admit, like I was also very off put by that. I wasn't expecting it at all. Like when you look at this cover, that's not what you're expecting to get. But I guess the author herself has actually criticized the cover and said that it is not reflective of what the actual content of the book is. So as this person said, just be warned that there is definitely darkness in this book. So there are a lot of dark points of this story, and I'm very curious like why they decided to market it without acknowledging that. This next review is saying that for the person, it is a difficult book to rate and review. They think that they're an outlier because the overwhelming theme is that most people are awful, which can occasionally be true, but it's not something that they enjoy reading about. And that is definitely like a theme, and I didn't mind that so much because it was critiques of people who like, I felt like there were glimmers of people who weren't awful, so I could appreciate that. They also were talking about how the main character came off as so frigid and almost robotic that it made it hard for them to root for her. For being a genius, she couldn't seem to figure out simple things regarding life, and so much seemed over the top. Like I said, she definitely could be like a kind of Sheldon Cooper robotic character, but I just saw that being the way that her brain worked, I don't think I ever really questioned that. It made sense to me that she saw things in a very black and white way, because that's usually how, I don't want to make a generalization, but when you're thinking of, I guess, like a caricature of a science-y person, they're definitely more looking at things in a black and white way with like concrete, solid answers. And this review is also actually critiquing the marketing for it. I don't know why they decided to market it like that, but whatever. This next review I think is pretty indicative of what most of the 1-star reviews said. I just missed the joke here completely. I did not laugh out loud one time. I don't know why they're describing this book as funny. It's not funny. I guess at times it can be kind of humorous in a way because of the way that the main character reacts to situations, but I don't know why they think this book is funny. But this person goes on to say, this book was sad and disturbing. I honestly cannot understand how a book full of domestic violence, rape, suicide, death, bullying, sexism, and other dark subject is considered funny. I'm shocked by the high star reviews and people calling this a comedy. So are other reviewers calling it a comedy? I didn't find this funny. Like I had a high star review. I mean, I don't give star ratings, but if I did, I would have a high star review. I really enjoyed this, but I don't think it is a comedy by any means. To kind of give you a summary of what the rest of the reviews are talking about, like I said, they're definitely talking about the fact that it's described as a comedy, I guess, which it absolutely is not. But they also are going over how it can be kind of preachy, and a lot of people didn't like that, and a lot of people didn't like the constant monologues and things like that. I found that it integrated into the story very well, so I didn't mind it so much. And some people had trouble with the fact that like there's kind of a fantastical element, if you will, with an anamorphic, there's a talking dog. So that definitely, like, people have trouble with that. I mean, the dog doesn't talk, but like you're in the perspective of the dog. The dog is not a realistic dog, but I don't know. I thought it kind of added to the story and made it really unique. So it's very interesting. Like, I'm not saying I am saying that I disagree with people, but I'm not saying that they're wrong, is what I'm trying to say. Their opinion is just different than mine, and I think that's interesting. Another kind of controversial one is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I think I read this book in a different way than other people did. So yeah, that was an interesting experience for me, but I would say that the #1 critique is kind of summed up here. Christina Lauren should sue for copyright infringement. This is very, very similar to Love and Other Words, and I can understand that because it is like super similar. But I mean, every story's been written before, like, so I don't really know what to comment on that. It definitely is similar, but it is what it is. I don't know. It's kind of like a gray area, right? Because everyone has a different take on a story. Like almost every single story has been told before. So the comparisons are going to be inevitable. And the comparisons, I think, for like a book that came out so recently, like Love and Other Words isn't super recent, but like I can understand why people are comparing the two and getting frustrated that they are pretty similar stories. But I can also think of quite a few books that have like a pretty similar childhood friends to lovers plot line. And there's also like a new one that is coming out this coming year where there's a lot that deal with a cabin sort of thing. And sorry if my face goes dark, it's because the screensaver is going on. But there's a lot of childhood friends to lovers story where they haven't talked for years and then they like have this cabin that they used to meet at. There's quite a few. I'm not saying they're wrong though, like it was quite similar. But many people had issues with the ending and the heroine. And like I said, I think I kind of read it differently than everyone else. Maybe I missed it, but people were talking about cheating a lot. And I think I misunderstood where the relationship was when certain things happen. But anyways, this review says, how can a book be so good and sweet until the last 10% and then everything turns into a car crash of epic proportions? I'm super disappointed and upset because I love the childhood friendship between the hero and heroine, and while I expected something as big as the fallout, I didn't expect that. I was utterly shocked and it made me sick to my stomach. The ending is super rushed and doesn't feel realistic because of that. I'm so disappointed. I do find the ending wasn't my favorite part of the story. I think my favorite part was like the past sort of parts of it. The ending, I can see how that was like, it wrapped up very quickly and quite neatly for what happened, but I honestly think that I read the ending differently than a lot of people did. This person also says, so pissed because this was going to be a solid 4-star read until that plot twist, which they saw coming, happened and ruined everything. And this person says, I don't think I have ever despised a main character more. I know the main character could be really frustrating. I can understand how people would like take issue with that. And kind of summing everything up, literally Love in Other Words, basically a reversed version, but with actual horrible behavior from Percy, which is the main character, and just horrible execution. I just did not enjoy this story. I can see where the issues are coming from. I think I don't know. I obviously liked it, but like, I'm not saying when I really like a book or say it's a favorite, it doesn't mean that I'm not acknowledging those issues or I don't see those issues. I definitely can understand that. I think I just chose to read it in like a more happy and less bad way. One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, also super controversial. I knew right away before even looking at reviews that the main thing was going to be the PDA, because yes, I totally agree. I did not like the PDA at all. Like, I need to find that one review, but basically the one review says like, you're doing what, where, and like that is, yes, exactly. Was not a fan of that. But that aside, like that didn't ruin my enjoyment of the story as a whole. Yeah, so this person didn't care for the writing, and they also said like, you did what, where, but they also say just drown me in a bottle of hand sanitizer, which is fair. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I also felt that way. I just kind of pretended that it wasn't happening there, and that made me feel better. This person says that they feel like they're missing something here. Red, White, and Royal Blue was one of their all-time favorite reads, and they were bored and uninterested and kept seeing how much longer they had to go for this one. They thought that August, the main character, was boring and couldn't really care about Jane either, who was the love interest, and the plot just didn't seem to mesh with them, and also kind of the sci-fi aspect. I'm gonna cut off the bottom part of the review just because I feel like it is kind of spoilery a little bit. But yeah, essentially this person like really wanted to love the story, but they found it was overly descriptive and wordy, and maybe like it very well could be. The review prior also said the same thing, but since I listened to the audiobook, I didn't really have an issue with that. And I didn't find the story to be boring. I was like super invested in their relationship. This review is brutal. I hope that when I wake up tomorrow morning, I won't remember anything about this hideous book. Damn. I'm surprised to see so many people who didn't really care for the characters, because I loved the characters and like the friend group and found family that was going on in here. But this person says that they are infinitely angry about the fact that the book reads like fan fiction and is entirely unrealistic. Yeah, but like, I don't think it reads like fan fiction. Maybe because my interpretation of fan fiction is that it would have to be famous people or like characters, so I'm kind of confused by that, but I think that's just a me thing. Oh, I totally misread this. They're saying that every character other than the main character is interesting and dimensional, yet she comes off as a flat Diet Coke. I can see that because I feel like I was kind of more interested in the characters other than August. I did like her as well though. Once again, this next reviewer really loved Red, White, and Royal Blue, but they didn't enjoy this one. They found like Red, White, and Royal Blue had witty dialogue that made them laugh out loud, a flawed but fascinating protagonist, and a love story to root for, and all of that is missing from this book, and they have a hard time believing it's written by the same author. It definitely is a different story than Red, White, and Royal Blue. Like, I'm really curious once I read by Kishara Wheeler to see what the writing is like, because it's definitely not like that witty banter. You don't get that in here. It's more of an emotional story, if you will, but I didn't mind that so much, obviously. I enjoyed it, but I mean, not everyone is going to. The Lost Ticket by Freya Sampson. This one was really interesting to me because I had a hard time, and maybe because it's a more recent release and it's not quite as popular, but I didn't see all that many 1 out of 5 star reviews. Do I even have any here? No, I couldn't find any 1 out of 5 star reviews, which is exciting. So I had to go to 2 stars. But a lot of people just felt like the story was underdeveloped, and something that came up a lot was the fact that it seemed to be like a Hallmark like movie in a book, which I found to be interesting because I didn't get that impression. It definitely, like, there's a romance, but I think maybe I just focused more on the storyline of like friendship and development for the main character than the romance. So I didn't so much get that Hallmark vibe. But this person says, I was liking it, but it was too rushed, a little absurd, and slightly underdeveloped. Like, yeah, in a way it is absurd because, I mean, the character, like, he's been riding the bus for 62 years, but like, it's not like he's been on the bus for 62 years. He keeps riding the bus to try and find her. He's dedicated, you know. It's a little bit whimsical, I would say. This next character said that they don't care for stories that depend on the characters making silly/poor decisions one after the other. I don't know if I found that she was making poor decisions. I think, like, there's kind of a plot twist that I didn't see coming at all, and then I was kind of like meh about it that came in this book, and I thought that it may have ruined my enjoyment of it, but I did still obviously end up enjoying it in the end, but I didn't find it like all that necessary to have that thing happen. The decisions though, I don't know. I didn't really find that there were all that many silly decisions unless I'm just like not thinking of some. This next reviewer was hoping to get more of the story about Frank and his missing 1962 love, but it's a frame tale that turns into a setup for the romance between the main character Libby and Dylan. I thought we got a lot of Frank though. Like, definitely I can see what they're saying where they thought that you would like maybe get Frank's perspective or get to know more of like then, but it's all taking place now. I can see that because that would have been enjoyable as well. This reviewer divided things into things that they like and didn't like, but for things that they didn't like, they thought it was very surface level. Everyone sucked at communication. Everyone. That is actually very true and can be very frustrating. And the lack of acknowledgement that it's kind of creepy and weird to spend decades looking for someone you met for mere moments. Once suspension of disbelief, my friends. Like, just, it's cute. He's a little like sweet old man who is just looking for someone that made a big impact on his life. It's not like he's like in his closet or something and has like that meme with the blah blah blah, you know what I'm talking about. It's not like that. He's just riding the bus and he's just hoping he's gonna run into her. Also, my boyfriend and I have been rewatching Doctor Who, so I kept on seeing, like, picturing the old man Frank as Donna's grandfather, and he's just the cutest little old man, so it was so much for me. It seems that quite a few people who have read the author's first book, The Last Chance Library, they didn't end up liking this one as much, and I really want to read The Last Chance Library. I'm quite excited for it, but quite a few of the reviews said like they didn't think it was quite as good as The Last Chance Library. Once again, to kind of sum it all up, this review says, potential everywhere, but instead veers into Hallmark land where you want to shake the female lead for being so ridiculous. I kind of see what they're saying now about Hallmark land because I'm thinking that they're talking about the same thing that I am, where I didn't really like what it did with that. But once again, didn't make me hate it. And the final book that I wanted to look at some reviews for is The Handmaid's Tale graphic novel. Now, this is quite a popular book, obviously, The Handmaid's Tale, but the reviews are specifically for this graphic novel, and I thought it was really interesting. A lot of people didn't like the fact that it's like depressing, but like, expected. It's a dystopian. That wasn't unexpected. I also found quite a few people didn't enjoy the art style, which, like, I didn't particularly love the art style. It's not my kind of taste, but I felt like it suited the story. So this reviewer says, personally, I hate the art and I hate how all of their faces are super ugly. This art style absolutely ruins the story. It jumps around too much. It gives little to no background information or context for some parts of the story. They've read the original and like are very familiar with the story, and they don't understand some of the panels that are drawn in this book. And they also say that they think it was a very lame artistic choice to draw almost everyone white, which is fair because it actually, there are like mostly white people. So that definitely is something that like could have been improved upon. They're talking about how if you went into the book with no prior knowledge of the original, you'd be lost and confused. And this was my first exposure to The Handmaid's Tale, and I wasn't confused. I wasn't lost at all. I felt like it definitely told the story in few words, but it kind of allowed you to like fill in the blanks. Like, I understood what was happening. Maybe I didn't understand the why or the background, but I mean, it's a graphic novel, so I expected it to just kind of be an introduction. This next person says, an extremely unsettling and depressing story with an unclear ending that resolves nothing. There are many boring parts, and they didn't like the art style either. I was never bored reading this because I think I was so shook and like trying to figure out what was happening, and I didn't mind the open-ended like ending. And it definitely is super unsettling and depressing, but like, that's kind of the point. This person is not a graphic novel reader, but they love The Handmaid's Tale, and they said that this graphic novel version is too choppy and skips a lot of the story, especially the backstory. Yeah, that actually is true. You never find out like why or how that character is there, but essentially they're saying like it's very cold, the artwork was cold, very sharp and cruel looking, which I feel like fit the story very well, but they don't feel the connection with the characters that they felt when they read the novel. I would be interested to see like how I will feel about this after finishing the novel, but I thought as an introduction to the story, it really did blow my mind. And I wouldn't say, like, I felt for the characters because the situation is so messed up, but definitely there were some things that, like, were left out, but, I mean, because it's a graphic novel, I felt like it didn't ruin my enjoyment. This next review, on the other hand, it starts out with honestly horrible, but they thought that the artwork was spectacular. However, the story was too extreme and unrealistic. They think that the events could be spread out a bit more. A government can change so drastically in just a few years. I don't know if I find it like too extreme and unrealistic. I like to a certain extent for shock value, I guess, but I don't think it's like that unrealistic that something like this could happen. And for the last review, a waste of time. This book is an oddity, an adult comic book with neither beginning nor end. I know nothing about the background to it, and it would take a lot of explaining to change my mind. I think it constitutes a complete waste of a day's reading time and of money. Go on, tell me I'm wrong and why. This person's looking for an argument. I love that. I appreciated that you jumped right into this story and right into the world. I see how that would be jarring and people might not like it. And also, it didn't follow like a clear plot line, right? Like for a lot of it, I felt like I was still kind of getting to know the world and getting to know what exactly I was reading about, but I think for the story, it worked. Okay, so those are all of the negative reviews that I wanted to react to today. I'm just gonna angle this way so then we don't just have filming equipment in the background, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I think it's really interesting to look at other people's opinions, and like I said, none of these books are perfect, and I never say that about books that I love. I can definitely see and appreciate the flaws in all of the books that I've loved, and I think it's so interesting to see other people's opinions that are like the polar opposite of mine. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Tomorrow for Bookmas Day 11, I don't even remember what we're doing. Oh, we're talking about the most hyped books of 2022. So I asked you guys what books you were seeing everywhere and hearing about everywhere, and I'm gonna be talking about them tomorrow. So I will see you in that video tomorrow. Bye!